Hey guys, Julie here, and in this video we are going to thrift for some more art supplies. This is part 2 of my thrifting for art supplies video. I posted one last week that featured mainly vintage colored pencils by the Eagle and Barrel Company mostly. Venus is also in there. So these are old companies that were eventually bought out by what we know today as Prismacolor and Faber-Castell. So if you're interested in that, definitely go back and check that out. I went to a few different thrift stores. I don't know if you recognize this one from my very first thrifting for art supplies video. I went back to this Salvation Army here, and it is massive. It's in a city called New Westminster. It's been ages since I've been back in this part of town. It's quite far from where I live, so I don't travel here often, but I thought it would be fun to visit, and it was such a beautiful day. So I went for a little walk, I checked out the river market, I saw all of these gourds or squashes, whatever you call them, and they were super funky. I don't know what it is. I just find them so beautiful. I know it's a bit weird. And it's right along Fraser River, which stretches all across the Lower Mainland area. I'm not sure where it begins or where it ends. I'm not very good at geography. It's pretty to look at, and that's all that really matters, right? So I went to Salvation Army as my first stop, and then I also went to Value Village. And at Value Village, I found a brand spanking new set of Arty watercolors. I do plan to make a video. It should have been uploaded by this point, but I didn't like the artwork I created with it, so I kind of shelved it for a while, and I'll get back to it eventually. I found a vintage calligraphy set. I found a set of Japanese color sticks, whatever that means. And also, I came across a set of watercolors that are in these plastic tubes, similar to the ones I brought back home from Korea. And unrelated, but I also found this really cool blazer jacket thing, and it was only $13. Excellent quality, beautifully made, and I kind of love it. So the first thing we're gonna swatch out today are these Arty watercolors. I was hesitant to pick these up because I already have my beautiful, wonderful, lovely set of Mei Liang watercolors, and in my opinion, these are the best student grade watercolors you can find. So I mainly bought it for the case. I did not expect the watercolors to actually be really beautiful. Spoiler alert, they don't exactly layer very well, but on paper, swatching them, what a luxurious experience. I loved it. For $4, come on, that's pretty good. I filmed a bit of my behind the scenes setup for filming videos at night. And I learned that if I bounce the light off of a white surface, it creates a very soft light. So this was revolutionary for me. This expanded my abilities to film at all hours of the day. And you can see the difference between bouncing the light over versus just shining it directly on your sketchbook page. It completely gets rid of that harsh shadow, and it looks like you're working in daylight. So it's awesome. I really recommend it if any of y'all have your own DIY filming setup. I picked up these Tombow color sticks, according to Google Translate. That's what it said. They are essentially crayons, but they are beautiful crayons, amazing to work with. They come with a holder. I guess if the crayons get too small, you could use that holder and you could still use them. And they also come with a sharpener. I've never sharpened my crayons before, so that's new. Because I'm not entirely familiar with how crayons work, it's been a while. I decided to compare these with my DIY homemade crayons, which I made a video about. And granted, these crayons have been sitting in my room for a couple of years without being used. So obviously the wax ends up blooming and it's not as pleasant to use. But even with that in mind, oh my god, what a difference. These Tombow crayons are incredible. They are incredible. They go on the page so smoothly. They're so nice to work with. You don't have to press super hard. And the finishing almost looks like you used a Crayola colored pencil, but you didn't have to work as hard to get that, you know?
Oh, that's not a fun experience. I did a really bad job. Yeah, that's pretty awful. I have to say, these ones are definitely the winner. I used my pigment powder like what I used to make watercolors, and for others I melted down an oil pastel and I used the pigment from that. So the ones from the pastel worked a bit better. Oh, that is not... Ew, that is like chunky. Ew, do you see that? That's not a fun experience. I know when wax gets old, it's like not fun to use, is it? Nope. They are all deeply unpleasant. Yeah, no. No, 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 no. Oof, oof, awful, awful. I mean, actually, that's kind of an interesting texture, isn't it? Maybe if I ever want to add like texture to a piece, I can actually use them. Interesting. See, there's always a use for supplies like this, right?
Looking at them, they don't look like they were designed for children. This looks like it was designed for maybe older children or even student artists, just because these seem a little fancy compared to the crayons that I'm used to.
In Korea, the really popular crayons are the ones that are twistable. Think like Crayola twistables. And they also have a paper version where there's like a string and you pull it and it rips some of the paper, and then you just like peel it to unravel a bit more crayon. So those are the old-fashioned ones. The newer ones are plastic and you twist them up and down. So that was interesting. And the students, even the older students, really gravitated towards crayons, which was strange for me because I think I stopped using crayons in like 3rd or 4th grade, and then everyone was using, as we call them here in Canada, pencil crayons or colored pencils.
It did remind me of my students in Korea because they loved using crayons. Colored pencils weren't as common. They really enjoyed using crayons. So maybe the crayons in Asia are formulated differently to the ones here. But when I did use crayons in Korea, I actually filmed a video at school while I was teaching. This was during the holidays, so I didn't actually have work to do. But I filmed a video going around my classroom and picking out some of the art supplies I could find in the classroom, and I made an art piece out of it. So if you're interested to see what Korean school supplies look like, including those crayons, you can check that out. I'll link it down below. Next, of course, are these Winsor and Newton Cotman watercolors. Guys, I can't even begin to describe how excited I am about this. I have no idea what year it's from. I have to do some digging to figure it out, but oh my god, I'm freaking out. Guys, I flipped out when I found these. I was so excited. I was in a state of disbelief. I felt like I just got my hands on some kind of secret book or something, and I was like, is this allowed? Can I have this? I felt kind of unsafe with it in my possession because I felt like I came across something so valuable. I know it's really dramatic. I have been looking for ages for a set of watercolors. They are just so hard to come by at thrift stores, and I see them on Etsy all the time, and I just imagine, oh my god, how cool would it be to come across a set of vintage watercolors. I'm still on the hunt for a vintage set of watercolors that comes in a tin because I've seen some really old tins on Etsy and eBay, and I just imagine, oh my god, how crazy would it be to come across something like this. I'm definitely not gonna complain because this is awesome. The fact that I found a Winsor and Newton Cotman set. I've always wanted to pick up Winsor and Newtons. I just never really had the funds for it. And I've always talked myself out of it, especially the Cotman set, because they are technically student grade paints, even though they are very high quality. I already have my Mei Liang set. They work incredibly. They're made in England. I found the latest version of this set on Amazon, and it's being sold for $40, and the paints are now made in China. They still have great reviews, so I don't know if that actually affects the quality. It's just really special to have something that was made in a different part of the country than it is now. And I was amazed that the pigment and the binder didn't separate at all, considering these paints are quite old. I've dated them within the 90s, just looking through anecdotal evidence, like comments under sets that look similar or look like they could be from the same decade. My dad seems to think they are probably from the early 90s as opposed to the late 90s, or maybe even older. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna say maybe mid 90s just to play it safe. But if you have any idea of what year these might be from, please let me know. So there you have it. I found a ton of colored pencils in part 1 and some watercolors in part 2, along with some Tombow Japanese color stick crayons. If you live near a thrift store, I recommend that you pop in and see if they have any fun arty things. The whole process of thrifting for art supplies has given me a whole new appreciation for art supplies in general. I've made a rule for myself when it comes to thrifting for art supplies. I want to be able to actually use the thrifted supplies that I buy. I want to experience them. I want to experience the history of these items because it really does make the process much more special.
Hey guys! So it's the next day and I woke up with this page open on my desk, and I have to say, I love this page. I love it with all the swatches around it. Before it was like, it was a bit plain, but I kind of like how messy it looks. And that is the point of a sketchbook at the end of the day.
I love the idea of being able to give these supplies another life. I like that I can fulfill their purpose of being used in art pieces. That's how I like to see it. I really hope you enjoyed this. I do plan to upload a video on the Artify watercolors as well as creating an art piece with the Winsor and Newton watercolors that I found. And I also plan to create a video using all of my vintage colored pencils, the ones that you saw in the first video. So stay tuned, check those out, subscribe, and also check out the past thrifting videos that I posted, as well as showing off my vintage art supply collection, if you can call it that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy thrifting. Peace!